Hello, fellow writers. Did you know that you are writers? Yes, you are writing. It doesn't mean that you have to be published by anybody. You don't have to do it professionally. If you are writing something, you are a writer. Remember that you have a voice, that what you have to say matters. And when you write it down, that forces your brain to slow down a bit and think through the process of what you really want to say, what you really think, what you really feel, and what you really believe. So don't ever think that you are not a writer just because you're in this class. You are writing and you're writing for a reason. So this week is week 3. We have a few things to talk about. I am fresh off of my trip, my Mother's Day trip. I do this annually. I go to New York State and I visit my mother. Um, so this is kind of like my in between summer, between spring and summer terms, my little break, my little retreat, that I can go away, have a little bit of a break, even though the semester has really started for you all. I am now here, I am present, I'm here for you. I can answer your questions quickly and easily because I am at my computer. So let me share my screen here and we will talk about all of the things that we need to do here in week 3. So we have already gotten through the rough draft. And I know you probably feel a little anxious about it, especially if you haven't written for a long time or if you haven't written anything over a page or two. That can be quite a daunting task. But I don't expect you to have it perfect. I really just presented the rough draft for you right away so you could get right into it. We can get into it. And then as we go along, we will start to perfect things. We'll start to talk more about the writing process, what writing is all about. So this week, you are doing your revision. I will have provided you some feedback and some guidance as far as how you can improve your writing. So please make sure that you look at the feedback that I provide for you. I take a lot of time providing quality feedback so that I can guide you along the way. Since we're not meeting face to face and we're not working together in the classroom, it's really vital that you get that feedback as quickly as possible from me, that it's good feedback, and that you know where you can go for more help, but also how you can improve your writing on your own. So we'll be finalizing the first formal essay, the literacy narrative. And as you learned in the previous weeks, we all bring something different to the table. What you have to say matters, right? And we all have different experiences when it comes to being readers and writers. I know that some of you aren't going to feel very confident about writing something that will be read by another person. That takes a lot of trust, right? But I promise I will be a gentle reader. I promise you. I don't hold you to the same standards as I do my English 1001 students. Some of you may already be there, right? And I may want to push you a little bit if I think that I can nudge you to be even better. But I promise I will be gentle. I am not a harsh critic when it comes to my English 0099 students, 099 students, whatever. So I want you to take a moment to reflect upon your most recent writing experiences, documenting your experiences in what's called the writer's memo. And I will talk about that. It's down here. I will go through that handout with you, talk about it a little bit more, explain the goal of that uh, portion of the assignment. Um, it's important to reflect upon our writing, not only to process what has already taken place, but how you can look to the future and move forward, right? Make adjustments when you need to make adjustments. So this week's objectives, we are practicing writing as a process that includes coming up with ideas, generating text, drafting, revising, proofreading, editing, all of that great stuff that was talked about in the crash course video on the writing process. And then you're going to apply that kind of understanding and recognition to produce successive drafts of increasing quality. So you are going through this whole process of getting what's up here in the brain and out into the world. And now you can perfect it, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, but you'll make it better, right? And that is the whole idea of drafting and revising. It's just to make things increasingly better. You'll employ appropriate conventions for structure, paragraphs, mechanics, and format. Again, I don't expect it to be perfect, but I will provide you some guidance. You'll also um, employ appropriate conventions for syntax, grammar, punctuation, and spelling. These are things that you might need a little bit of refreshing on, and that's okay. And we have tools at our disposal. We have spell check, we have, Grammarly, we have all sorts of wonderful tools that can help us with those really quick and easy things to fix, right? The syntax, grammar, punctuation, and spelling, those are things that are very easy to fix because you can go somewhere, look up the rules, and then apply them. The drafting and the editing, well, not so much editing, but the drafting and revising, that's a little bit more difficult, but I swear it gets easier the more you practice it. Acknowledge the work of others when appropriate. You don't really have to do that for the literacy narrative since you're writing about yourselves. And of course, use standard documentation format as needed. So this week, for the grammar, you are learning about colons, the signposts, and that is a reading from the University of Mississippi Ret Lab. There are also a couple of readings that introduce you to this idea of reflective thinking and reflection as academic work. I find those readings to be important because that will help prepare you for what I'm trying to do with the writer's memo. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I do want you to also be aware of a video on reflective writing itself. This video is not from me, it's from somebody else, but it does again explain the reason why reflection in our writing is very important. So let's take a look at essay number 1 and the requirements here. You've read Malcolm X, you've heard the story of Andrew Stanton in his video, and they've presented their experiences of reading, writing, creating stories, right? We've learned about narrative, you've learned about literacy. So now you've had the opportunity to write your draft, a literacy narrative in which you describe an important moment in your writing life and reflect on how this moment has changed you as a writer or as a reader or even as a student. So you know all of this stuff from last week when you wrote your draft. Of course, key features for your literacy narrative: bring your narrative to life by using concrete and vivid details. Details can bring a narrative to life for readers by giving them vivid mental images. So all of the readings that you've done related to narrative, to storytelling, this is an assignment where you can be a little bit more creative, right? You really want the details to come alive so that your reader can really imagine and be put into the scene, right? And imagine what it's like to feel the way that you're feeling regarding literacy, reading, writing, whatever it might be, right? Make clear why the incident you narrate matters by explaining its significance. Make sure that that your organization, you have a beginning, a development, and inclusion is effective, engaging, and clear. You want to state the main idea of your essay somewhere in your introduction, then make certain that every supporting paragraph relates to and supports that main idea. So again, your essay will be about 500 to 750 words. That roughly works out to be 2 to 3 double-spaced pages when you're using a 12-point font. If you're using a smaller font, it may be slightly less, but roughly that's the guideline: 2 to 3 pages, double-spaced. And again, if you don't know how to double space, we have information in the course resources on how to do that kind of stuff. I have videos that will show you how to do it in both Microsoft Word and Google Docs. So as a requirement for every essay, you also must submit a writer's memo as a separate uploaded document along with your essay. So when you go in to, let me put this in student view. Oh, might not be able to. Let's see. Okay, hopefully you will see that. Um, when you go to submit your assignment, you will have an opportunity to upload a file, right? So you click upload, you choose where that file comes from, then you can add another file. So this is where you would add your writer's memo, right? Add another file. And you can add as many files as you want to. Hopefully you only will add two, but that is how you do it. Just make sure you click on add another file. I should probably add a note up there, just so you understand how to do it in case you miss things. So 2 documents. One will be the 2 to 3 pages of your revised essay, and the second document will be the writer's memo. Hopefully that's clear. Let me leave the student view here and go back to our module. Now, I will tell you a little bit about this writer's memo. So I have a PDF that you can download or you can read, up to you. The writer's memo, you can think of it kind of as a cover letter to introduce your essay. So it will be about 1.5 to 2 pages, but it's a very informal reflection. You can think of it kind of as, you know, a personal note that you're writing to me, that you will write for each revision. In the memo, you'll detail what you learned during the drafting, reviewing, and revision of the essay. And your memo should be submitted as a document along with the corresponding essay, which I've explained already. So why do we reflect? This is one of the best tools we have for learning. It helps us to reinforce our knowledge. It's because our awareness of what we know grows and fortifies when we consciously build a vocabulary for naming and discussing what we know. So a major goal of many composition courses is to reflect on your learning and writing practices. This is how you incorporate and build new knowledge, by reflecting on it. These memos also serve a purpose later, since you can look at them when you go to write your final course reflection essay that's due at the end of the semester. That will be the 4th essay. So a writer's memo can be written in essay or letter format, but try not to number or bullet point here. Language differences are most welcome. So if you want to use informal language, that's fine. Informality, of course, is welcome. The most important thing is that you are capturing your unique perspectives, experiences, and knowledge. So here are some of the things that I am looking for you to reflect upon, and you don't have to answer them in order, but try to make sure that you hit on each of these points. So think about audience. Who was your audience? How did you tailor your language and rhetorical choices to appeal to that audience or meet their needs? What are some of the most meaningful insights that you've gained through writing this assignment regarding language and literacy, as topics you're learning about and as practices you're developing? What concepts or terms have most impacted your learning and your writing practices? So, you know, rhetoric, rhetorical situation, context, exigence, purpose, author, audience, text, genre, so on and so forth. These questions might be more relevant further on down the line, since we're just starting out. So if you can't answer that question, that's perfectly fine. But, you know, you can think about narrative, right? If you've never really knew or thought about the concept of narrative or the term narrative and storytelling, you could talk a little bit about that, right? And then the last one here: in what ways has this assignment helped you to achieve some or any of the course learning outcomes? Those course learning outcomes are outlined below. So for the outcomes for this class, analyze the writing situation by examining audience, purpose, and context. Compose multiple genres for a variety of audiences and purposes, using sources as a foundation for writing in some projects. That one could apply here. Apply appropriate composing processes and conventions to the writing situation. I think that one definitely applies, since you are writing your first essay and you're drafting and revising and editing, so on and so forth. Locate, evaluate, and synthesize source material. Not yet. It will be coming. And describe what you know about reading, research, and writing processes and how you can apply that knowledge in various contexts. So, that last one is really more about reflective writing and how you can apply the things that you have learned through that assignment. So, hopefully, this clarifies it a little bit for you. Remember the writer's memo, around 1.5 to 2 pages, in addition to your revised essay. Um, okay, so let's take a look at the rest of the stuff this week. So you're watching this overview. That's the week 3 overview that we have listed here. We also have a video where I talk a little bit about paragraphs. So just as you know that essays have a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? We have an introduction, body paragraphs, and a conclusion. Paragraphs are kind of constructed the same way, and I go into a little bit better detail in that video, but paragraphs start with an introductory sentence, right? The topic sentence that tells you what that paragraph is going to be about. Then you have the body of the paragraph, supporting sentences where you might use examples, stories, anecdotes, evidence, so on and so forth, explanations, definitions, whatever you need to do in the paragraph. And then at the end of the paragraph, we tend to have a concluding sentence or a transitional sentence, depending on what type of paragraph it is. For body paragraphs, we are looking at transitional sentences, right? If you are going from one idea to the next, you want to transition as smoothly as possible. So you will have a transitional sentence at the end of a paragraph, and usually you'll have some kind of a transitional phrase that will help to ease into your next idea at the beginning of the next paragraph. And we'll talk more about this as we go through the semester. Again, we have that video on reflective writing. So with the assignments, we have grammar quiz number 3 relating to colons, and then essay number 1, literacy narrative revision. These are due by the end of the day on Sunday. Also, I want you to be aware that if you're having any kind of problem or any difficulty with any part of the writing process, coming up with ideas, writing paragraphs, mechanics, so on and so forth, you can schedule time to work with a writing tutor through UC Learning Commons or the Academic Writing Center. I just received an email while I was away on my trip from our professional tutor and all around awesome guy, Dr. Don Peteroy, who is on campus at UC Claremont and is part of the UC Learning Commons there, part of the Writing Center staff there. We have worked together in our face-to-face English 099 classes, and he reached out to me to say, hey, if you have students that need help, please let me know. So hopefully I will have some information from Don once he receives my email that I can then present to you as far as how you can go about scheduling a virtual appointment with him or with one of his colleagues there at Learning Commons in the Writing Center. So if you have any questions in the meantime, and you can visit these links, they're working. But if you have any questions in the meantime, you know how to get in touch with me. As I said, I'm back at home. I'm back in front of my computer, so it'll be much easier for me to answer questions quickly and access the information that I need. I was able to respond to a few of you and check in and do some grading while I was away. But I like being here with my desktop and all of my stuff, my books and everything that I can refer to. It's much easier to work that way than it is to work while I'm traveling. So again, if you have any questions, reach out to me. I am here and I'm happy to help. Okay, have a fantastic week, everybody. I look forward to seeing your revisions. Bye-bye.